Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I wanted to address one of the questions that I've been getting a lot lately because I promote the box squat so heavily these days. And I mean, it has literally put 70 pounds onto my back squat as a very advanced lifter already. So I get asked a lot, even though I support it, can you replace the box squat with the pause squat? Don't they do similar things? And the answer is quite frankly no. They don't do similar things. A pause squat is where you go down in the air and you try to find a point to where you hit the bottom of your range of motion and you pause there for X number of seconds that you count in your head, and then you try to drive yourself back up. Alright, the problem with that, with a pause squat, you actually get a completely different knee angle. You get a completely different inability to set an exact terminal range of motion. You can't work as many muscles as the box squat. You don't get the rate of force production differences that you get from the box squat. No, they're not comparable at all. And if you think about it, when you do a pause squat, what happens to your knees? They jut way forward, you pause at the bottom, and then you try to explode back out using sometimes a little bit of inertia. Okay? You can usually pause squat more weight than you can box squat, which also means that you're going to get less recovery from it because you're going to have more axial loading. You're going to have more shear on the knee, all things considered. So from a recovery perspective, you cannot do as much volume on a pause squat as you can with a box squat. Also, what's one of the biggest problems people complain about with pause squats? Everybody who pulls an erector and their back squatting, it's usually pause squats. It's ass to grass pause squats that make them pull an erector because they don't have the mobility to do it. Okay? But look at the knee angle difference. When I do these box squats, where is my knee relative to my foot? It's directly above my ankle at the bottom. It's not at the toe, it's not past the toe, it is all the way above my ankle. Your shins are straight up and down. From a knee shear perspective, this is easier. Now, some people say, but Jason, aren't squats really overrated as far as the issues with the knee? Yeah, it has been overrated. It has been overhyped. But are we saying it doesn't matter from a recovery or inflammation perspective? No, that's not true. That knee shear will impact the amount of training volume that you can do. It will impact the amount of training volume you can do. It will impact how much you can recover from. You have all of those factors. Alright, it is far easier to recover from a box squat than it is a pause squat, of similar rates of perceived exertion. And look at the amount of volume we do with box squatting. It's not uncommon for me to hit a max in 1 week and do 12 sets of speed squats in the same week. Right? And we train high volume on conjugate system. It's a very, very high volume training system. Pro tip, by the way, those who say it isn't are usually con men who are selling other programs. And they don't actually know anything about the system. Doesn't matter how many credentials they have. Anyone claiming it is a low volume system is completely full of crap, and they are trying to sell you something. It's very high volume. But look at the training volumes that we get away with. 12 sets of speed squats and a max in the same week. And then we do tons and tons of supplemental work. But when you look at the muscles involved also, we know that we can get more volumes in, it's easier to recover from, but more muscles get used. When you pause squat, it's mostly just some quads and a little bit of glute. You can't get these ultra wide stances that we get with the box squat. Okay? Look at the stance width on the box squats. What does that mean for muscle fiber recruitment and muscle recruitment all through the body? It means it works just as much quad because we can get an ultra wide stance. Now, people who say, doesn't that work less quad? No, the recent research has looked into it and found that stance width does not impact quad recruitment at all, to no significant degree. And actually, the argument, if anything, would be made that the ultra wide stance might actually technically work a tiny amount more quad than a narrow stance. It's the total opposite of what people thought. And the reason people thought that is, of course, because wide stance, you feel so much in other muscles that people just assume the quads get worked less. No, it adds a lot more extra muscle to the situation. It adds more adductor, more abductor, more hamstring, more glute. It's one of the few versions of a squat that actually gives any significant hamstring recruitment. Right? Wash my hamstrings on this. The deep box squat with a wide stance actually even works hamstrings. So we work all of these things. Okay, now what else do we have going on with the ultra wide stance that we do on the box squats? It means our torso stays more upright. Right? Our torso stays more upright, less shear on the spine. When you start looking at that from, again, a total recovery perspective, box squats are easier on your body. They're easier on your structures of your body. They recruit more muscle fibers and more muscle mass, and are easier to recover from. So when we start talking about things like stimulus to fatigue ratio, what wins? This crushes pause squats. Now, the other issue we come to with pause squats, it's hard to program them. Your range of motion is ambiguous, isn't it? In fact, the bottom of your pause squat depth will change depending on your foot placement, won't it? With a box squat, we can ensure consistency in depth every single time. A 12-inch box is always a 12-inch box. You have the ability to measure and set your exact depth to the inch that you want to hit every single time consistently. The lifter has full control of this. You do not have control of this when you're doing a pause squat. It's sometimes very hard to find the exact same spot again. This you have complete control. You also always know if you reached depth. What happens even on a pause squat? We start pausing higher and higher as it gets heavier. We get inconsistent overloading, don't we? Okay, so even though you're coming to a stop, you're using musculature to try to force yourself to a stop. And what ends up happening is that it pushes the knees further forward. Well, if the knees slide further forward, the torso leans further forward. So we put more shear on our low back, more shear on our knee, with less muscle fiber recruitment. Then we come over to the rate of force production. When squats have been looked at in the lab, what has the highest rate of force production? The box squat. Now, people are doing the pause squat because they want to get explosive out of the bottom. Okay, that's why they're doing it. Learning to stay tight at the bottom and explode. Well, the box squat teaches you to explode from the bottom anyways. It also teaches you to use more muscles out of the bottom. Right? The box squat teaches you to actually use your hamstrings more out of the bottom of a squat. It teaches you to use your hips more out of the bottom of a squat. Well, if you want to get more powerful out of the bottom, what do you need to do? You need to activate more muscles more quickly. You also need a higher rate of force production. Okay, and let's come over to the training tools. Are you going to be able to do speed work? Are you going to be able to do speed work like I'm doing here with pause squats? No, you're not going to do speed work. Try doing speed work against bands and compensatory acceleration with pause squats. Come back and tell me how well that works in comparison to this. It doesn't give you as many training tools, and I'm not saying the pause squat is useless. It's just that the box squat has far more that it brings to the table. Better stimulus to fatigue ratios, for it's easier to recover from. It doesn't beat your body up as bad. It recruits more muscle fibers. It teaches you to be more explosive, more effectively. It teaches you how to bring more muscles into play out of the bottom to explode harder. It allows you to incorporate dynamic effort work easily. It allows you to be consistent in your exact range of motion from a programming perspective. And it's a completely different bar path. So when people start asking that, they're like, well, aren't they interchangeable? Or can't you just replace the box squat with a pause squat? Or shouldn't athletes be doing pause squats? Won't that help them be more explosive? Shouldn't they just be doing that instead of a box? No. What has the highest rate of force production? The box squat. When it's been studied, you produce force more quickly off the box than you do off of a pause. And we're still doing it, and we're doing it from a true dead stop. The pause, you're kind of just squeezing in midair. Maybe using some muscles to try to force yourself to hold tighter. With the box, we have an actual terminal stop. We have a terminal stop in place. So if you're trying to get more explosive, the box squat wins hands down. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.